Have you ever heard of a planet just floating through space all on its own?
Really?
Yeah, like no star, no sun,
Yeah.
just cruising through the galaxy.
Yeah.
Those are rogue planets.
Yeah.
And there could be billions of them.
Yeah.
Maybe even trillions.
Trillions, yeah.
In our galaxy alone.
It's incredible, isn't it?
More rogue planets than stars, potentially.
Yeah. It's wild.
So what do we actually know about these mysterious worlds?
Yeah.
How did they end up all alone out there?
Mm-hmm.
And could they even have life?
Right?
Welcome to Cosmos in a Pod.
Space and Astronomy series.
Okay, so first things first.
Yeah.
What is a rogue planet?
Well, I mean, it's basically a planet that's not bound to any star.
Okay.
You know, it's on its own solo journey through the galaxy.
Okay.
They're also sometimes called free-floating planets or nomad planets, which kind of I love, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That's a very evocative...
It really does paint a picture, yeah.
Yeah.
So if they don't hang around a star, how do we even find them?
Right.
It seems impossible.
Well, it's tricky.
Yeah.
One of the main ways we find them is through something called gravitational microlensing.
Okay.
And that's kind of like, you know, picture a rogue planet passing in front of a distant star.
Okay.
From our viewpoint, right?
Okay.
And the rogue planet's gravity bends the starlight as it passes in front.
Yeah.
And so it makes the star temporarily brighter.
Okay.
So it's almost like the rogue planet is acting like a magnifying glass in a way.
So we're not actually seeing the planet. We're just seeing how it messes with the light.
That's right.
Behind it.
It's kind of like a detective. You know, we're looking for these little clues.
Yeah.
And distortions.
Yeah.
We also use infrared observations to try and pick up their faint heat signatures.
Okay.
And in very rare cases, we can actually get direct images.
Yeah.
But only if the rogue planet is, you know, pretty close and bright.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we've figured out how to find them, but how do they even form in the first place?
Right.
Like, were they always loners?
Well, you know, there's a couple of different theories.
Yeah.
One idea is that they, you know, actually started in a normal solar system.
Okay.
But they got kicked out because of the gravitational pull of
Right.
other planets or even passing stars.
Yeah.
You know, imagine like a young solar system. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
Planets are jostling for position.
Totally.
And so it's kind of, you know, a recipe for cosmic eviction, as you might say.
Sounds like it.
Another theory is that some rogue planets actually might have formed directly from collapsing gas clouds,
Okay.
similar to how stars do.
Yeah.
But in these cases, there just wasn't enough mass to ignite
Okay.
and become a star, so they
Yeah.
kind of almost formed like a star that just didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
And then finally, there's this really, you know, dramatic scenario, which is the collision scenario,
Oh.
where you have two planets in a solar system,
Okay.
and they just smash into each other, and one or both of them get sent careening off into space.
Yeah.
Talk about a bad breakup.
That's intense.
So,
Yeah, I'm picturing these just like epic cosmic billiards games that are just sending planets into their own.
yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
But what's it actually like on a rogue planet?
Right.
Like, if it's not orbiting a star,
Yeah.
is it just a frozen wasteland?
Well, you know, it's interesting because rogue planets are incredibly diverse.
Okay.
You could have small rocky planets like Earth.
Okay.
You could have gas giants
Mhm.
like Jupiter.
Gotcha.
Some may have atmospheres. Others could be barren and icy.
Wow, so there's like a whole spectrum of what these planets could look like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting.
So it's, you know, it makes it hard to study them because they're all so different.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, when it comes to temperature, yeah, you're right to think they'd be pretty freezing.
Yeah.
No sun means surface temperatures could plummet, you know, close to absolute zero.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
There might be other ways for them to stay warm.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah, so
Tell me more.
think about internal heat, right?
Okay.
Some rogue planets could still have like warmth left over from their formation,
Okay.
or they might generate heat
Yeah.
through radioactive decay in their cores.
Yeah.
And then there's also things like tidal forces,
Right.
the same forces that cause, you know, tides on Earth.
Yeah.
These could actually create friction and heat inside a rogue planet,
Okay.
especially if it has any moons.
Oh, wow.
So there's other ways for them to kind of stay warm even without a sun.
So they might not be completely frozen.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so that opens up some possibilities.
Yeah.
Now this leads us to the big question.
The big question, yeah.
Could these rogue planets
Mm.
support life? I mean, life on a planet without a sun?
Right.
Is that even possible?
Well, life as we know it would probably have a tough time on the surface.
Hmm.
It'd be incredibly cold and dark.
Yeah.
But what about beneath the surface?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, you're talking about those internal heat sources we just talked about.
Exactly.
Okay, could there be liquid water down there?
Potentially.
Even if the surface is frozen?
Well, that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
If a rogue planet has enough of that internal heat,
Yeah.
it could have these subsurface oceans, basically,
Okay.
trapped under layers of ice.
So like hidden pockets of water.
Yeah,
Like whole oceans even.
potentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we think might be happening on some of the moons in our own solar system,
Okay.
like Europa or Enceladus.
Right.
These icy moons that we think have these oceans underneath.
Wow.
So it's possible.
And then you also mentioned earlier
Yeah.
that some rogue planets might also have geothermal activity.
Right, like volcanoes,
know.
hydrothermal vents.
Yeah.
Yeah, those could provide energy for life even without sunlight.
Oh, wow.
So,
So even without the sun, life could find a way to thrive around those vents.
yeah,
Like those extremophile organisms we have here.
that's the idea.
Right.
Like the things that live in these really extreme environments.
Yeah.
It's possible
Right.
life on a rogue planet, if it exists, it
Yeah.
would probably be, microbial and adapted to those really extreme conditions.
Wow.
But it's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
That is a mind-blowing concept to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back to Cosmos in a Pod.
We're back.
Okay, so my mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
Like, subsurface oceans and life around geothermal vents on a planet without a sun.
It's pretty amazing stuff.
I know, I never would have imagined.
Yeah.
But finding and studying these rogue planets up close,
Right.
it's got to be tough, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest challenges in astronomy, I would say.
Yeah.
It's like trying to find, a tiny little ember
Okay.
in a vast, dark forest.
Yeah, I can see that.
We talked about some of the methods,
Yeah.
like gravitational microlensing
Right.
and infrared.
Yeah.
But those seem pretty limited if these planets are so hard to spot.
Well, they are limited.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to a few things. I mean, remember, these planets don't emit much light
Right.
on their own, so they're incredibly faint.
Yeah.
And even with techniques like gravitational microlensing, we're really relying on this kind of chance alignment between the rogue planet, a distant star, and our telescopes here on Earth.
Oh.
It's like waiting for 3 cosmic marbles to line up perfectly,
Right.
across billions of miles.
So it's a lot of waiting and hoping for the right alignment.
A lot of patience involved.
Yeah.
And even then, a lot of times, all we get is this really fleeting glimpse,
Okay.
a single data point.
So like a blip of data, basically.
Yeah, and it makes it really hard to study these planets in detail.
Yeah.
We're trying to piece together a puzzle with only a few pieces, so to speak.
I got it. It's like reading a sentence out of a book
Right.
and trying to understand the whole story.
Right, exactly.
And then you also mentioned that rogue planets are super diverse.
Yes.
So that must make things even harder.
Yeah, that's another big challenge.
Yeah.
That diversity is both fascinating and challenging, right?
Right.
Each rogue planet could be totally unique.
Yeah.
With its own size, composition, temperature,
Yeah.
maybe even an atmosphere.
Okay.
It's kind of like, trying to study all the different types of animals on Earth
Right.
based on just a handful of really blurry photos.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. So it's tricky.
So how do we move forward? How
Yeah.
do we get a clearer picture of these rogue planets?
Well, I think the good news is that we're really entering this new golden age of space telescopes.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of buzz about that.
Yeah.
What makes them so special for studying rogue planets?
Well, the James Webb Space Telescope is already up there and sending back some incredible data.
Yeah.
And the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is set to launch soon.
Wow.
So these are, going to be game changers, I think, for our understanding of rogue planets.
Yeah.
With James Webb, it's equipped with these incredibly sensitive instruments that can, see through dust clouds and spot these rogue planets
Wow.
that were invisible to older telescopes.
Okay.
So we're really getting, a new view of the universe with James Webb.
So piercing the cosmic veil,
Yeah.
finding these hidden worlds.
Exactly.
And then what about the other telescope?
Oh, the Roman telescope.
Yeah.
That one is going to be amazing for surveying large areas of the sky very quickly.
Okay.
So it's like a wide-angle lens.
Right.
And that means that we'll be able to find many more rogue planets.
Okay.
It's not just about finding one or two.
Right.
It's about getting this bigger sample size
I get it.
so we can study them.
Yeah, so it's about understanding the rogue planets as a whole.
Yeah, as a population.
Yeah.
And really get a better sense of how common are they?
Right.
What are their typical characteristics? And how do they fit into the big picture of, the galaxy?
So moving from spotting individual planets to studying them as a group.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a big step.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradigm shift, I would say.
Wow.
And of course, there's still so many questions
Yeah, I bet.
we need to answer.
Like what?
Well, I mean, one of the most basic questions is just, how common are these rogue planets? I mean, are they more numerous than planets orbiting stars?
Right.
Or are they just this kind of cosmic anomaly,
Wow, I had no idea. We didn't even know the answer to that.
Yeah, we're still figuring that out.
Wow.
And that number, has big implications because if they're really common,
Right.
it means that our understanding of planet formation might need some tweaking.
Okay.
It might mean that planets getting kicked out of their solar systems is actually a pretty frequent occurrence.
So our nice and orderly solar system is the weird one.
It's possible.
Wow. That's a wild thought.
Yeah, it kind of turns things on their head.
Totally.
And then, of course, there's this whole question of life.
Right.
We talked about the possibility of subsurface oceans, geothermal energy.
Yeah.
But finding proof, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I imagine that's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is a rogue planet.
Right.
And the needle is a tiny little microbe.
Yeah, and we can't even see the haystack
Exact.
half the time.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge.
So what happens to rogue planets over time?
Right.
Do they just wander forever?
Well, that's another mystery we're trying to unravel.
Okay.
Some scientists believe that they might actually get captured
Okay.
by the gravity of a passing star
Okay.
and become part of a new solar system.
Oh, so they could find a new home?
They could, yeah, after billions of years on their own.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
A little heartwarming.
Yeah, but others might just keep drifting alone forever,
No,
traveling through the vastness of interstellar space.
that's kind of sad.
And, over time, they'll cool down,
Yeah.
they'll lose their internal heat,
Yeah.
and become these frozen, silent worlds.
That's both amazing and a little bit melancholy.
Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet thought.
It does make you appreciate our own planet a little bit more,
For sure. Yeah, Earth is a pretty special place
Yeah.
when you think about it.
So you mentioned earlier that rogue planets could be stepping stones
Right.
for space travel,
Yeah.
but their lack of gravity resources, that seems like a pretty big problem.
Yeah, it's definitely something scientists are thinking about.
Okay.
While they might not be ideal for long-term settlements or anything,
Right.
they could still offer some unique resources or advantages
Okay.
that we haven't even considered yet.
Like what?
Well, for example, their predictable paths through the galaxy
Right.
could make them really useful for, charting interstellar routes.
Oh,
Or they might contain certain rare elements or minerals
okay.
that are scarce in, traditional solar systems.
So instead of pit stops, they're like points of interest
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it.
with their own unique value.
Yeah, each one would be its own little, mystery
Right.
to explore.
I like
And we're still in the early stages of understanding these objects, so it's
No.
important to keep an open mind
Right.
about their potential role
Yeah.
in future space exploration.
This is also fascinating.
Yeah.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface of what there is to learn.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so much more out there
Yeah.
we need to discover.
About rogue planets.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these seemingly insignificant planets,
Right.
these wanderers in the darkness, can hold so many clues to the mysteries of the universe.
They really do challenge our assumptions,
Yeah.
and they kind of push the boundaries
Oh,
of
yeah.
what we thought we knew about planets and the universe.
It's both humbling and exhilarating,
It is.
isn't it?
Yeah.
To know that there are entire worlds out there
Right.
just waiting to be discovered.
Waiting to be explored.
Worlds that really challenge our understanding of planets and just the nature of reality.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about astronomy
Totally.
is that, there's always something new to discover.
Always.
Always.
Welcome back to Cosmos in a Pod.
We're back for the final stretch of our deep dive into rogue planets.
It has been incredible.
Yeah.
So we've gone from not even knowing what a rogue planet is
Yeah.
to, like,
Yeah.
imagining hidden oceans and potential life on these planets.
Right. It's really amazing to think about.
It's totally changed my perspective on what's out there in the universe.
Yeah. And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I think it's worth reflecting on the bigger picture a little bit.
Okay.
What do rogue planets tell us about the universe as a whole?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like they challenge our assumptions about how planets form
Uh-huh.
and where they exist.
Right.
Like, we thought planets had to orbit stars.
Yeah, that was kind of the textbook definition, right?
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah, rogue planets just, like, totally flip that on its head.
Yeah, they really throw a wrench in the works.
Mm.
And I think they show us that planetary systems are much more chaotic and unpredictable than we once believed.
Totally.
For all we know, planets getting booted out of their solar systems
Yeah.
could be a pretty common occurrence.
So our solar system is the weird one.
It's possible.
Wow. And what about the idea of these planets carrying life?
Right.
I mean, we talked about the possibility of subsurface oceans and geothermal energy.
Yeah.
But if those are more common than we think,
Mm-hmm.
could life actually be more prevalent on rogue planets
That's a really interesting question.
than on planets orbiting stars?
And it's one that, scientists are actively thinking about.
Yeah.
Because, if rogue planets are as numerous as some believe,
Right.
and if, even a fraction of them harbor life,
Yeah.
it would mean that life is much more widespread
Right.
than we ever imagined.
Yeah.
And it would completely change how we look for extraterrestrial life.
It's like we've been looking in the wrong place.
It's possible, yeah. We've been so focused on,
Yeah.
these star systems.
You're right.
But maybe we need to start thinking about these rogue planets as well.
The cosmic nomads.
Yeah, these interstellar travelers.
Yeah. That's a really cool thought.
But even if we don't find life
Yeah.
on rogue planets, they still offer us
Okay.
this unique window into the universe.
How so?
Well, because they don't have that blinding light from a star,
Yeah.
we can actually study their atmospheres and compositions. Okay.
In much greater detail.
So they're kind of like pristine laboratories,
Yeah. I like that analogy.
letting us analyze the raw materials of planets.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Without any interference from a nearby star.
So rogue planets can actually help us understand how our own solar system formed.
Potentially, yeah, because they give us this glimpse into the early building blocks
Okay.
of planets,
Okay.
So by studying these rogue planets,
Yeah.
we might learn something about
Right.
how our own solar system came to be.
So they really force us to reevaluate our assumptions
Uh-huh.
and push the boundaries of what we thought we knew.
It's a constant process in science, right? We're
Yeah.
always learning new things and having to kind of
Totally.
adjust our understanding.
This whole deep dive has been
Yeah.
a truly mind-expanding experience.
I'm glad to hear that.
We learned so much about the formation,
Uh-huh.
characteristics, the possibility of life,
Yeah.
the challenges and opportunities that they present to scientists. Yeah, it's a really fascinating field,
Totally.
and one that I think is only going to get more exciting
Yeah.
in the years to come.
Absolutely. A huge thank you to all of our listeners
Yes, thank you for joining us.
for joining us on this cosmic adventure.
We hope you enjoyed learning about rogue planets.
Yeah, be sure to follow and subscribe to Cosmos in a Pod.
For more deep dives into space and astronomy.
You can also check out our YouTube channel for even more captivating content.
Yeah, we've got lots of great stuff over there.
Until next time, keep looking up.
And keep exploring.